Hello, yes. Welcome back to a not so special episode of the Lil Res podcast, also known as the regular episode question mark Sounds Like It podcast. The weather is sunny, the hat is purple slippy, and Yoki is wandering around the living room. We'll see if she's a troublemaker today. Richard, do you know what we're doing today? He looks
I
pensive
think
for
we're
the
just
viewers.
yapping.
Yes.
Yeah, we're yapping
We're
today.
yapping. Yes, we're just chatting. That's it. Well,
My comedic pause was like zero point 0.5 seconds too long, so that one's on me.
that's okay. That's okay. We have to deal with the latency anyways. Yeah, yeah. We're just chatting. No, nothing. Right into agenda item. Oops, all agenda items.
Boom.
um, yeah. Okay. I want to talk about something, which is okay. I want to talk about something, and then I want to segue it into another conversation. But we'll start with the first thing. So there's like been this whole thing where I feel like it's been a thing for a while. I feel like it's very millennial coded, which is oh man, I have so many tabs open all the time. Oh my gosh, I always have tabs. Oh, I never want to close any tabs. Oh, look at my web browser. I have 50 tabs open. I'm saying this in kind of a condescending voice, but I do indeed do this. I have tabs open all the time like crazy. And I've tried like different tab management solutions, like different browser extensions, different approaches to organizing tabs. But as of a couple of weeks ago, I have discovered a remarkable solution to all of this, which is that if I cannot immediately discern what, like in aggregate, all of my tabs are for, if I can't see the gestalt of the tabs at a glance, I close the entire window. I just get rid of it. I don't even think about what it could be. If I can't identify it immediately, it's not important enough to keep around, and I just close the window. Do you relate to this tab situation, Richard? Are you a tabist?
I don't normally keep. Actually, no, I do keep open a ton of tabs. If a tab is really important, I will just copy and paste it onto like a sticky note, a virtual sticky note.
Mm-hmm.
But I do subscribe to the theory of if I don't remember, it's not important, and which is obviously not true, but it has saved me a lot of mental headache.
Yeah.
I used to like, I would like, I'd be like, oh, I had something I wanted to say, and I'd be like, if it comes back to me, it'll come back to me. I used to not say that though. I used to try and like
Dig
spend
deep.
minutes trying to think about it. Yeah, and sometimes I will every now and then
Yeah.
if it's like, but most of the time I'm just like, eh, like
Yeah, I guess
water
it's
off a
kind of
duck's
like
back.
what it's like the stuff that minimalists and people like Marie Kondo preach. I guess it's like just let it go. I don't know. I don't handle just letting things go very well personally. But okay, I'll do the segue now. Um, but there's one reason why I've stuck with this, why I've kept up with this. Um, and it's because I have had zero instances so far where I've experienced regret because I closed a bunch of tabs all together at once without sorting them or figuring out what it is, just throwing away. Um, and so that's the second topic is regret based decision making. Which so I'll give a little backstory for this. I am on uh, the newsletter of this professor who I know slash knew when I was like doing my PhD and stuff. And so the funny thing is, I joined this newsletter thinking that this is like, oh, this is a newsletter. So like people will join and he'll share all the kinds of things. And that's what I thought at first because he would write little articles and stuff. But over the years, it became increasingly apparent to me until it became explicitly apparent to me that this is not like a public facing for a mass audience newsletter. I think there are literally a total of somewhere between 10 to 15 people on this newsletter. And this has become especially apparent because his newsletters have gotten more and more personal over the years. And obviously this information he's volunteering. He knows I'm on the newsletter. I joined because basically at one point he said, "Oh, I'm starting a newsletter," and so I emailed him asking to join the newsletter, thinking, "Oh, this is a thing." So he knows I'm on there and stuff. I don't feel like I'm snooping or anything. But it was just a weird realization. There was something where he like shared something and I clicked on it. It was like a YouTube video and I clicked on it expecting it to be like, oh, it's gonna have a couple hundred views or whatever. And the video had like 3 views. And it was like unlisted. And I was like, oh wait, this is giving me a sense of what the scope of this newsletter is. Anyways, this is my long story. He I think it's okay for me to share this because even though it's private, I have not identified him or anything. It's whatever. I don't want to. It's clear that he doesn't intend for this to be public, so I don't want to overstep. But um, he shares like a lot of like things he's learning and stuff. He recently had a kid. He's been talking about that. Um, and something he mentioned like a month ago is that ever since having a kid, he has been trying to adopt like a regret based framework for making decisions, where he always asks himself before he decides to do something, will I regret this, or how much would I regret this if I made this decision? And this was especially pertinent for him having a child because when you ask that question, when you have like a baby, the answer is just always, I would have rather I would have rather spent time with my kid than spent more time working on a paper or even publishing a paper. Like if I look back, I don't see a world where I would have preferred doing that over spending more time with my child. So that was the context of that. But ever since I read that, I've been like, okay, this seems like a pretty effective way to go about decision making. And so I keep asking myself whenever I do something, will I regret this? Do I think I will regret this? And if yes, I'll do the opposite decision. If I don't think I will, I'll move forward. And I've also been using it like to not proactively, to preemptively test regret. Basically with the tab thing. When I close a tab, it's like, all right, let's see if I regret this. And if I do, then I won't do it anymore. And if I don't, then that's a signal that I should probably keep doing it. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, tab management and regret based decision making.
That regret thing is interesting. What are some other like typical ways that people like make decisions based off of? Because I just make decisions based on what feels. Most people probably are just like vibes, you know, like there's
Yeah,
a
I
million
think
different
usually you
factors,
go
but
off
that's
how
an
you feel in the
explicit one.
moment. Yeah.
Yeah, but like, are is there like a process for like? Oh, I'm sure decision making is a science. It absolutely is. Yeah. I'm just
Yeah.
curious where regret would fall into that. Like, it's like think like consequence. Like, I don't know if there's like a broader theory around that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too well versed in that stuff. I mean, there's definitely things around decision making out there that I don't know about.
Yeah, that's
um,
fair.
but yeah, I don't know. It's very simple. I don't know. Like for example, it makes answering the question like should I go to the gym very easy to answer, because it's like, well, I never regret going to the gym, so that's the answer. Or if there actually is some competing interest that I might regret more than going to the gym, then maybe. But like I don't know. Obviously, all of this stuff is easier said than done, right? Like you do things because you have the energy for them. Like we're gonna prioritize doing easy things always, because you can't do hard things always. Um, but it definitely makes a lot of decisions feel a little bit simpler because I think I can not perfectly, but I can pretty reliably tell if I'll regret something or not. At least I can reflect on past experiences and say, did I regret this situation or not? Um, and that seems to work out pretty well for me. So yeah, I don't know if you have
Nice.
anything else to add there or thoughts.
No, I'm always fascinated. Oh,
Oh, we get
okay.
a gnocchi.
Um,
She doesn't show up very often on the camera.
I I just I am fascinated by regret, I think. And I think it's a very interesting emotion, and I think it's also unique and interesting because we can have regrets, but then we can also rationalize regrets or
Yeah, yeah.
stuff we regret in the past we might not regret in the future. Like, so I I'm just it scratches a lot of itches that make me happy. It's like it's a way of thinking of decision making. It's like a framework, right? It's like a little thing that you can use to assess something. But also it's like there's a lot of it's like there's a lot more complexity behind it than like
Yeah, no,
it depends how much you choose to dig into it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You're getting me. I'm thinking about. I'm creating a character in my head, which is like, the like perfectly stoic, like person getting this advice and being like, regret based decision making. I don't regret anything because I can't ever change the past or something like that. Like, because there are some people who prioritize in that direction too, and it's like, okay, well, I guess that those are not really compatible worldviews.
Yeah,
Yeah,
such is life. Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah.
No,
Another.
that's
Oh yeah, go
interesting.
on.
Nope, that's all I had to say.
Yeah, another little thing that that professor dropped in his little newsletter that I was thinking about a lot for a while was he was talking about Steve Martin, the actor comedian.
Uh
Uh,
huh.
Steve Martin has this quote about doing stand up, which is like something along the lines of, "It's easy to be great, but it's hard to be good." And the meaning is supposed to be like, if you're doing stand up, if you're getting your reps in, if you're performing at shows, you will have nights where everything aligns, where you're really feeling your set, the audience is in a good mood, you're in a good mood, and you kill it, and it goes really really well. Those are inevitable. They'll happen with enough volume.
Yeah.
But to be consistent, to consistently have a high floor where every show is always at least good is the true hard part of doing a lot of creative work for a lot of skills for a lot of crafts. Um, and I think I've been for a very long time. I was very greatness oriented in how I was trying to prioritize doing things. Um, like I was like I'm trying to like maximize opportunities for greatness, but I think I have since started to shift towards, okay, how do I raise my floor? How do I get consistently good? What are the things that need to be ironed out for that to be possible? And you kind of want both, obviously, but I would rather be good for a long time and consistently than great for a short period of time occasionally. Um, and so, yeah, that one is interesting too.
Well, you and I are very anti-variance pilled in
Yeah.
general,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that makes
yeah.
sense.
Yeah, there's like a lot of I don't even know how to categorize it. I don't It's weird cuz I feel like I'm pretty put off by a lot of like productivity stuff, a lot of like efficiency and whatever. I don't know. I just don't think it makes sense to make that a high priority in your life. At the same time, those types of things also deeply resonate with just like how I carry myself on a day to day basis. I definitely have optimization brain rot, and I'm always looking for ways to tighten things up. I'm always looking for ways to get better work done in things. Um, but like this scene, I don't know. I don't know. You just see people. I don't like people telling people how to live their lives. I like people sharing how they live their lives and letting people learn from it rather than prescribing it. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't like like productivity being a priority. I like it in service of like more liberated approaches to things. I don't know. I think I'm
Mm.
trying to have my cake and eat it too in a lot of ways though. Oh, I raised that because it reminds me of what is it? There's an author. He's like an economist, philosopher type of guy. He wrote a book called like Anti-Fragile, I believe is the title. Have you heard of this?
Oh,
Are
I
you
already,
familiar?
the title makes me. That's a very loaded title.
Yeah,
Anti-fragile. I'll look
there
it up.
it's part of like a larger collection of like I haven't read these books, but it's part of like a larger collection of books about like this dude's philosophy. But as I understand it, the idea with like anti-fragility is that you accept that we live in a chaotic world and then try to maximize how you can benefit from the inherentness of chaos, and he calls that act being anti-fragile. I think variance reduction can be anti-fragile, but it has to also come with like accepting things changing. I'm not well versed in this at all though, so I don't know if I'm accurately articulating the idea. What's the author's name? Did you find it?
Yeah, I did. His name is Nassim Nicholas Taleb.
Yeah, yeah, Nassim Taleb. He's kind of a abrasive weirdo on the internet too, which is unfortunate. But his ideas are pretty interesting.
I will say I do appreciate that, or I don't know if he knew what he was doing with this, but when I heard anti-fragile, I thought it was like a book against like woke culture or whatever, like basically
Oh,
like anti-snowflake, and I was like,
yeah.
oh, what is this? Like, oh no, it's gonna be a conservative author, and
No, yeah,
whatever. You can be conservative, and your book can be irrelevant of your political beliefs or whatever.
yeah,
It's fine, but like I was like, oh, is this one of these I don't like the world we live in books. But it's
no, no.
not.
It's very
It actually does seem,
philosophical. Yeah,
yeah, that's fair. And we talked a little bit about like East Asian principles and philosophies, and those are definitely the less flexible you are in life, the more challenging your life is going to be. Just
yeah,
by
yeah,
I feel like by its nature, it's either going to be the less flexible you are, either the harder your life is going to be, or the less the more limited your life is going to be. Like you'll only be able to exist within a certain band, and you'll limit your growth and opportunities and stuff like that. So I definitely appreciate the idea of like kind of riding the wave of chaos and all of that, but I do need some breathers in between each
yeah.
wave.
I mean, I think you can do variance reduction in service of navigating chaos, right?
Yeah.
Like as long as you accept that you're not gonna actually eliminate variance.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I don't know. Life is weird. I guess this is like one of the philosophy episodes, which I think has mixed reception sometimes. But don't take it too seriously, guys. Just chill.
Philosophies are just tools for like just viewing the world. They're not like the be all end all, which makes sense given that they'd be misconstrued, given that the internet likes to like have things be one way or the other. There's not a lot of philosophies exist to kind of help us with all the gray areas of
Yeah,
life,
yeah, yeah.
and the
It's like
internet doesn't do so good with gray
yeah,
area.
tools to answer questions that can't have answers. It's weird though. I definitely feel like some people are like more on the right track than others, but that's mostly because I just agree with them. So what do I really know?
Yeah,
But
that's
sometimes
fair.
I don't know, like nihilism. I just can't get behind nihilism. Nihilism seems like it's just I can't understand it, and I can't. It doesn't add up to me. But there are plenty of nihilists out there. I think a lot of the kind of like degenerate like pseudo philosophies of the world, like red pill ideology and stuff, I think is very like steeped in nihilism, in the idea of like if it doesn't matter, that justifies shitty behavior. Um, like optics and stuff don't matter, like social niceties don't matter, and that's I don't know. I'm mixing a lot of stuff here, um, but I don't think that's true, and I think you can only make a case for that being true like in your own head, which is a weird way to live life, in my opinion. I don't know. If you're a nihilist and you listen to this podcast and this puts you off, oh, this is very confrontational, but maybe that's a good thing because I mean, I can't imagine someone being that way because I'm so hopium pilled all the time that if you've gotten this far, it's like, what are you doing here, dude? But maybe you want a different perspective. That's fine. I don't know. Oh man, that reminds me of another thing I want to talk about. This has been on the docket for so many episodes, we never get around to it. We've referenced it. I actually think there was an episode a bit back where I said something was Occam's razor, but it was actually Hanlon's razor. So Occam's
Oh
razor is
yeah,
the simplest thing is correct, and Hanlon's razor is don't attribute to malice, but can be attributed to insert like kind of dismissive term here.
yeah.
Um,
And sometimes they overlap because
yeah,
the most
definitely.
simple answer is oftentimes
Yeah,
incompetence.
yeah, yeah. But I have this class of person in my head or this type of behavior which I call malice attributors. um, and I don't want to be too like high horsey about it, but in my view, people tend to be malice attributors. They attribute malice more often than I think it makes sense rationally. Because like here's how I think about it. How often do I make decisions maliciously? And I'm not trying to say I'm a good person or a great guy, but it's not often. In the very least, it's definitely not the majority of the time. If I'm trying to be malicious, which granted I try not to be, it's not going to be the bulk of my actions. And so I should reasonably assume then that other people are typically not going to be I mean, I'm just rehashing I'm literally just rehashing the axiom. But like it's true, and yet you see it all the time on the internet. People going, "This person did this thing because they wanted to hurt someone, because they hate someone, because it's bad." And I just don't think that's the right way to look at it. You shouldn't be a malice attributor, because the false positive is not worth the the true positive. Um, I don't know. Maybe it's a defensive mechanism. Maybe people don't want to get burned, so then they look for ways to avoid that aggressively. But in my eyes, you usually aren't right if you are being a malice attributor. Sometimes it's obvious, but I think if it's ambiguous, just don't even try.
Yeah.
Um,
It'd be another story if you were like a teenager attributor or a kid attributor. Like if you see something online that like pisses you off, it's more likely that like
dude,
it's pretty likely that it's like a
dude, yeah,
kid or
yeah.
a
Be a
teen. Like
teenage attributor, not a malice attributor.
malice
Yeah, yeah. If you
attributor.
see something that like you're like, what the hell is this? Just go, hey, assume a teenager wrote it, and you'll feel a lot better. Yeah, we were talking about this off pod earlier. I don't want to get what was it? I literally oh yeah, yeah. I don't want to spotlight this person too much because they had some bigoted coded ideas. But I saw a Reddit post that I found quite objectionable, and I was like, what kind of person would do this? What kind of person would kind of be like this? And I clicked on their profile and quickly discovered they were 17 years old, and I was like, ah, but of course. And being 17 doesn't totally
Just
dismiss
another edge
bigotry,
lord.
but I'm not minimizing it, but it's a come on, we've seen how edgy teenagers can get. You can't give it the same weight as like a 27-year-old person.
A 27-year-old posting bigoted stuff online has an agenda. A 17-year-old is like just as likely to be like an
Yeah.
edgelord that hopefully
Looking for
like
like purpose, looking for something that makes them feel, looking for
yeah,
community.
no, exactly.
Um, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I was pretty libertarian when I was like 14, 15 years old. Like I was very like absolute free everything. Like people should be able to do whatever they want all the time. Because I think I was like rejecting authority, and I was like, I don't want anybody to tell me what to do. This is how I feel about things. I had like anti-feminist beliefs and stuff. But it would have been weird if somebody was like, hey, all of these thoughts you have uh, count the same as an adult having them. I don't know. Like you grow out of it. It just happens. um Teenagers haven't seen the world. I don't want to be too ageist or whatever. I don't want to dismiss teenagers. Okay, there's this weird thing with handling teenagers, which is that while you're a teenager, you feel like adults don't understand you. Adults are constantly dismissing you. Adults don't get it. And then when you're an adult, you're like, oh, wait, literally everybody was a teenager. Literally everybody remembers what it was like to be a teenager. Like, sure, you can forget and stuff. It's not as clairvoyant, but it's not lost on you. But then you realize looking back at teenagers that they're the ones who don't get it. And it's like, how do you
Get it?
navigate
Yeah.
this situation without being like condescending or a dick or anything, right? Like, they deserve agency. They deserve to be treated like a person. But they literally lack the capacity and experience to understand so many things while being like coked up on hubris the entire time.
Yep. Yep. No, I mean, I saw a quote or like a meme or something. It was like all these people that like are watching stuff or that are like into like biohacking or just like seeing morning sunlight and shit. Like people that follow like Huberman Lab and stuff. And you could even go more broad than that. Like, but you could just be like, your like mid to late 20s are for like rediscovering and relearning for yourself all the shit your parents told you that were good
Yes,
habits
I've
as a
totally had that
teenager.
experience. Yeah, we talked about this before, but it's like so many things I hear it and I'm like, okay, yeah, there was no version of me in the past that could have understand this no matter how crystal clear you were. Because okay, I have a great segue into another one of our agenda items here, but like because I I needed to have the experience. I needed to have the neural pathways to even be able to parse what that meant. Um, it
Yep. No better teacher than lived
Yeah, yeah,
experience.
and it's kind of weird. It makes you question like, so what is the point of giving this like these like life tips, life ideas if they kind of fall on deaf ears without actually knowing it in the first place? Um, the segue is it's crazy, by the way, that you wanted to talk about this completely independently of me, and I told you, oh, I put that on the podcast agenda items. It's subtlety versus accessibility in writing and media. And so the way that relates to what we were just talking about is there's this frustrating thing when you're making stuff, which is that if there's like an idea or information or a concept that you want to communicate, there's an inherent tension between how like graceful and how eloquently you want to communicate it through subtlety and subtext versus how much do you want to just spell it out for the audience. Um, because something I've learned to be true is that there will always be someone who doesn't get who doesn't get it. Right? In
Yeah.
my Schmovement video, I called Mario because I thought it would be obvious and funny to call Mario something that is just flagrantly wrong. A person who knows of Mario and is talking about it in his own video essay obviously knows how to pronounce Mario. Like, there's no world where I wouldn't. Um, but so many people didn't get it, and I realized is too subtle of a joke. I would have needed to explicitly call out that I was pronouncing it wrong for people to get it. But at that point, it's not funny to me anymore. You're always writing this line because you want the viewer, you want the audience to feel like they can come to the realization themselves. It doesn't feel good to be spoon-fed and babied when you're consuming media. You want to understand yourself. But to be able to do that requires depending and leaning on your existing knowledge, your existing experiences, what you know, and not everyone is going to have that same plate, that same thing. And so you'll have to, if you want to be more accessible, if you want to reach more people, you have to spell it out more. You want to talk about this, Richard, because you're talking about how like memes and stuff, internet culture seems to lean so hard onto subtlety. You rarely get stuff spelled out for you.
Yeah, and when it is spelled out, like there's like those accounts like r/Peter explains the
Yeah,
joke,
yeah.
like where they've literally. I think there are so many people online who want to get and understand memes and just pretend that they like understand them, or they're missing out on like the certain level of like nuance and depth. And I love that there are accounts out there that are being accessible, but like they're doing it in like a kind of subtle or funny
Yeah,
way.
it's like
So
there's
I
another layer of
appreciate that.
irony that enables that to even
Yeah.
be humor in the first place. Yeah,
But
yeah, go
like,
on.
oh my gosh. Oh, sorry. No. Oh, you can go first, and then I'll
Okay,
share my other
well,
story.
yeah, sure. I was just gonna say, I think the reason for this tension is that subtlety, subtext. Oh, I said this earlier, but yeah, subtlety is almost always favorable. Something that lets the reader, the viewer, the audience come to the conclusion themselves is going to be more satisfying. It's going to hit better than something that needs to be spelled out and explained. And so you're trying to push as much subtlety as you can. And so a lot of memes that hit bank on in jokes, on not explaining things, because if they did, if they provided context, they wouldn't hit anymore, at least not in the same way. But then it creates the othering experience, like you're saying. It's like, so if you don't get it, you don't get it, and that's kind of the case, and it kind of sucks. And in the case of like Twitter and stuff, it gets so excessive it becomes annoying to a certain point. But yeah, what were you gonna say?
Yeah. So there's kind of two things. One is like, yeah, when you're able to convey a point across with subtlety, it the reader you're not since you haven't spelled it out for them, the reader gets to spell it out in a way that makes the most sense for them,
Yeah, yeah,
which makes it inherently more accessible and relatable. But you do need to make sure that you have that baseline. I will say the one thing in this subtlety versus accessibility, I really don't like the way that the balance has shifted in stuff like comments and stuff like that.
yeah,
Like you'll see like, and I mean maybe some of these maybe aren't going to be the best examples, but like if someone replies to like a video on Instagram and they're like, "Oh, this is so good. Like what song did you use?" They'll just say like the Rude Sandstorm.
yeah,
It's like,
yeah, yeah,
haha,
yeah,
yes, you made a joke, but like now this person genuinely wanted to know about your music.
yeah.
Or like one of my biggest pet peeves is when I'll ask a question and someone will. I remember the first time I was ever hit with an LMGTFY, a let me Google that for you.com,
Oh,
which, if you're not familiar, someone literally just copies and pastes your question verbatim into Google, and then it shows an animation of like that word being typed into the Google search bar, and then it delivers you to the Google search results. It's like Google search results don't have like I'm asking a person because I want to hear your take on it
yeah,
and
yeah,
your subtleties around the issue. Like
yeah. I've
it's
seen
so
people
rude.
pull that out where it's like, but that literally doesn't answer the question. Like there's you can't Google this type of question, or like it doesn't make sense to Google this type of question. It's
Or you'll be met with Google's awful AI to
yeah.
answer your
Oh,
question.
okay. Extremely small tangent. So people have been clowning on the AI recommendations things, and people are giving like, okay, maybe arguably cherry picked examples of like really bad responses. But what shocks me is the frequency with which, just in my personal experience, it's giving me whiffs. Like, I don't even need to cherry pick to experience how wrong it is. I sent you one the other day. I asked how much lactose is in sour cream, and the AI told me sour cream that has added lactase enzymes does not have lactose. Or, like, first of all, that's not true. It would nullify it. But basically, it said, oh, don't worry about how much lactose is in sour cream. Just take lactase enzymes. And I was like, okay, this is completely useless to me because that is just dodging the question. Like, I will already do that if there's lactose in there. So, anyways, we don't need to go on a tangent there. But it's remarkable to me how inaccurate it is. That was a
Yeah.
way
The
too
more
early
and
of a
more I
deploy.
have oh, gone.
Oh no, no, that's all. That's all.
I was just I was just saying the more and more I experience with Google AI, the more and more I'm realizing it's not like synthesizing and putting together information in like a useful way. It's like it almost just feels like it's doing a shittier job of copying and pasting information. Like
Yeah.
it's bringing up like stuff and I'm like this is like a snippet of something that is only tangentially relevant. Like this isn't answering my question.
Yeah, yeah. There's like I definitely think AI skepticism stocks are going up, which I think is good because I think the initial hype was way, way, way overblown. And I mentioned
Yeah.
this before, but I use AI all the time for all kinds of things. Like, I use ChatGPT every single day. And because of that, I'm really skeptical of what LLMs and stuff are capable of. And I've tried to do a lot of I've tried to use like image generation for thumbnails and stuff. Like, I get that it's taboo. I get, like, okay, eliminating artists and stuff, but I was never gonna hire artists in the first place, and I get power consumption and stuff. But again, I don't know. I want to understand it. It's important to me, and I haven't used it in almost anything because it's frankly either not good enough or a pain in the ass to get good enough. The more specific of an image you have of how you want something to be in your head, the worst AI is at it. This has been true for everything I've experienced, and it's been like what 2 years I've been like using this stuff now. Um, where was I gonna go with that? Oh, yeah, yeah. It's not literally copy and pasting, and pedants will go, oh, that's not how AI works, blah 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 blah. But if you, but like how the transformer models and stuff works aside, um, experientially, there's clearly a strong, strong bias towards rehashing what is prevalent and known, and a really poor reasoning and like expansive thinking ability towards things that have not already been answered or are not already known. Like, AI struggles tremendously with novelty. Things that are new, it just shits the bed time and time again. A human has to figure it out and then needs to patch train it to get it to even have a semblance of competency. What we were talking about before this tangent. uh,
Oh yeah, taking it all the way back.
yeah,
I'm not a huge fan of how the discourse
right,
has
right.
shifted on the or just how the discourse on the internet is where if someone's specifically asking for help, people do not respond in an
Yeah,
accessible manner. People
yeah.
are it's just kind of rude.
It's like performative qualities to discussion. I I was thinking about this the other day. Had to burp. Excuse me. I'm curious if I'll pick up on the mic. uh, so if you're a millennial, you grew up with a version of the internet, whether it was an earlier Web 2.0 or a more mature one, that is just decidedly not how the internet works today. Whereas younger generations and even older generations who weren't early internet adopters, like boomers and stuff, only know what the internet looks like now. I don't know what the significance of this is exactly, but it's just weird that when I use the internet for most of my like adolescence, coming of age moments, it still felt like you were talking to people. Like most of the time I spent was on forums and stuff or in small communities where the conversations I wrote never felt like they could even reach a wide audience ever. It like wasn't a possibility in my mind. It was like something that happens on this sub forum is going to largely stay within this sub forum. Maybe it'll reach out to the broader forum, and it's definitely never leaving this website.
Yeah.
There's no reason to have any performative qualities, or there's many fewer incentives to be performative in that situation because I'm just talking to a person. But in the same vein as like feigning surprise in real life, you can't just not answer someone's question and get along with it because that's weird. But in the idea of like my comment might be seen by literal thousands of people and it might even be validated through likes and stuff. I guess that quality can shift. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
where's dude in Twitter, everything has the like I'm dunking on you culture a little bit.
yeah. I think Twitter's dunking culture is massively a product of the design of the website. Um, it has like it's very easy to do one directional discourse on Twitter with like quote retweets. This is not a new take or anything from me, but I think website design matters quite a bit. Um, like it's it sucks that we got the social media that wasn't like tested first behaviorally and
Yeah.
experientially because I think it resulted in a lot of whiffs that we've had to course correct from. I think I've talked about this before, but it is what it is.
And uh, so I see that you wrote down, and I'm not sure if this was relevant to
Yeah,
what we were
yeah, yeah.
talking about, but like algo funneling, and
Oh
I wasn't
yeah,
sure. Do you remember the video that I sent about the lady that watches? Uh, or can I just lay out the
yeah,
premise?
yeah. You tell the
So
premise.
yeah, so there's a lady. She posts a TikTok, and the TikTok, or she's explaining how she's next to her boyfriend watching a TikTok. And that TikTok is a girl is posting little snippets of her boyfriend went golfing and he was supposed to be back by 12, and she posts every 30 minutes saying like, "Oh, he's still not back, still not back. It's now
Mm-hmm.
3 p.m. It's now 4." And the girls' comments on it were both guys and girls in the comment feed saying like what was surfaced to her was like, "Oh yeah, that's a red flag. He really should have communicated."
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
she sent the video to her boyfriend, and the boyfriend's comments that showed up for him were like, "Oh, then you played a normal game of golf. Like, oh, she's asking for attention. Like, wow, she clearly doesn't understand you."
yeah,
And
yeah,
this is the exact same video, and she brought up a really good point, which is that because we're humans, we seek social interaction and validation. The comments are what makes us shape our perspective on a video. I have watched a
yeah,
video
yeah,
before where I always go to the comments, and that helps me shape if I want to share that to my friends or not. Because, yes, well, obviously, if I like something, even if the comments don't, I should like it. I also crave social validation, and I like the little gut check.
yeah,
And
yeah.
now that's got me questioning, like, my gut check is just shaped to me now. Like,
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's a there's been I think a lot of us have been aware that there's been a thing for a while now, but it's crazy to see it so stark, right? Like the same video,
stark.
both sides of the take spectrum being completely just cutting across from each like just ignoring each other completely. And only seeing like one slice of things.
Imagine if you're on like that radicalized like YouTube wormhole. Imagine what your comments look like on videos and stuff like that. What's being surfaced to you? Like
Yeah, yeah.
you're being funneled with you're not just being funneled by the video creator because the video creator doesn't control the comments. You're being funneled by likes and all of this validation. You'll see someone post a comment that has like 10,000 likes and you're like, "Oh, that's 10,000 other people that agree with me.
Yeah, yeah,
When you
yeah.
could be missing the 200K comment that is totally critiquing the video.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, so in terms of the algo funding topic that you pointed out, so I'm doing the random subreddit experience. I'll rehash it once again. I decided I'm going to unsubscribe. I'm going to make a brand new Reddit account. I'm going to subscribe only to random subreddits. So I literally click a button that takes me to a random subreddit. And if I'm unfamiliar with it, I subscribe. That's the whole idea. If I don't know what it is, I subscribe. I did this 2 months ago. I got around 150 subreddits. And then I just that was my Reddit feed for that time, and I really really enjoyed it. But something that frustrated me was that Reddit, all things considered, is a very low algo platform. Um, Most recommendation is based off of pretty deterministic decision making. So like upvotes, for example, push very linearly. There are ways to like massage that, but for the most part, more upvotes will pretty directly translate to you seeing a comment at the top of a post. So unlike in this like Instagram example, Instagram is serving completely different comments, completely unrelated to the likes and engagement and everything. For Reddit, at least the ground truth on a post is going to be the same for everyone who visits. The front page of
Yep.
each subreddit is going to be the same for everybody who visits. But the one place where they juice, like they pump a ton of algo juice in, is the like homepage. Your Reddit homepage is personalized and tailored to you, and as far as I can tell, that personalization cannot be turned off. It cannot be disabled. You have to get Reddit's personal recommendation system for things. Um, this was not always the case. Like 10 years ago, if you had the exact same subscription list as somebody else, both of your front pages would look identical because they would have that more deterministic thing, but they're trying to customize, they're trying to personalize. The consequence of this is that when I like some subreddits more, it would just start serving only those subreddits to me. I was subscribed to over 100 subreddits. Realistically, practically, I saw maybe 30 to 40. Like I wasn't getting a ton of breadth, and I couldn't figure out a way to get Reddit to serve me these other subreddits that I wasn't seeing as often. So when I wanted to refresh my feed and kind of get it more new because I was kind of getting old of this subreddit set, and adding wasn't doing enough because it was so fixated on the ones that currently existed. I just literally went on the front page, went on my Reddit homepage, and every post in the first 50 posts that showed up, I just unsubscribed because those were the ones that it always serves to me. So I unsubscribed all of those, and then every post, every subreddit I had saved a post from in the past, I unsubscribed from all of those subreddits. Then I added like 50, 75 new subreddits on top of it to get back to like where I was before. That was the only way for me to get Reddit to show me something new. And I really wanted to see something new because that is exactly the thing that improved my experience when I started subscribing to random subreddits. And the algo was actively taking me away from something that I knew made me happier and had more fun on the website.
Yeah.
It's funneling. It was funneling me, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, I feel like we put way too much stock in how quality these recommendation systems are. Like they work, obviously they do at a metrics level. They work. But I don't know. I feel like growing up, I would always hear people say, "Oh, like Facebook has engineers dedicated to making you addicted to Facebook, making it so that they're constantly serving you exactly what you want." I don't think that's what happened. Or TikTok's algorithm is so good; it gives you exactly what it wants. I don't think that's what's happening, and I don't think This is like a hot take I'm saying necessarily. I'm sure a lot of people feel this way, but like the algorithm, it can like YouTube can have the best recommendation system in the world, and I think it does. I think that recommendation system can also suck and just completely pale in comparison to like you recommending me a video. Because you recommending me a video, Richard, is worth magnitudes more than YouTube recommending a video. And that just shows how big the delta is. Even if you get people to stay on
Mm,
the platform longer, whatever, it's such a hollow metric for what makes for a good algorithm or not. Um,
yep.
and it's like, wow, we've come so far. Oh, AI is so good, blah blah, blah. Deep learning, big data, etc. And it still sucks.
Yeah, and I mean, there's two things, right? One is the algos are designed. These are publicly traded companies, so
Yeah,
these
yeah.
algos have a financial interest in mind.
Right, they're bottom line focused.
They want to get whatever will get the advertisers the most amount of money. Number one, and then number two is you're right. Like they're not optimizing for people's enjoyment. The algo isn't there for your enjoyment. The algo is there to keep you there. And
Yeah, yeah.
that it can keep you there in a variety of different ways. It can keep you there by getting you mad at a bunch of different stuff. It can keep you there by like hitting stuff you enjoy too. Like it so it's yeah, it's the metrics that they're using, they're not I don't think they're actively tracking people's happinesses and if people's happiness came at the expense of profit, it would be pretty easy to see which one would win.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I guess people have been beating this drum for a while now, but I don't know. I've never felt like I've had to fight an algorithm so much
Yeah.
as I have with this Reddit thing, and it's so I don't know. It's just so interesting to me. It's like I finally found a way for me to enjoy social media, and it is actively being pried out of my hands. Um, like they're making it so hard for me to like spending time on their platform. It's maddening.
Yeah, I've realized, and I've actually been this way for a couple of years. I'm just the type of person that visits a couple of subreddits. Like I just visit the actual subreddit themselves, which,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
and I'll just spend some time. And I know that that's not like sustain. It's not like useful, especially if you have more than like five or six. But I have a couple. Like I visit r/baseball. I visit like
Yeah,
NFL.
yeah.
I
Check
visit
in.
a couple of my team sports subreddits, like in certain sale and just like watch subreddits. But the front page for me, I mostly just use it as like a way to be like, oh yeah, that subreddit
Right,
exists.
right. It's just like a reminder. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's the way I was using Reddit for a long time. I think the problem with that is that you get the eternal September,
Yes.
um,
Yep.
and
You
you
do.
can't escape the eternal September.
Yep.
Like it's like you need novelty, but the algos don't know how to serve novelty, so they just serve. I don't know. They serve the same thing more, or something. It's just, uh, uh, yeah. I'm trying to think.
We're getting algo fatigue.
We're getting
End of the
algo
day.
fatigue. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think if I have something more to say there. I just feel like I'm harping on the same points that have always been said. But I guess the reason everyone talks about this stuff all the time is just because it is real, and people can tell. Uh, I I am glad I'm dodging like rage and like negative emotion farming stuff though. I think I've successfully built the habits at this point where I'm just like I'm out of here if the vibes are bad because it's like it's the regret based decision making, dude. Um, I've regretted it too many times, and so and I've
Yeah.
reinforced the idea to myself enough times where I'm like, hey, let's not do something you know you'll regret.
There's also, yeah, there, I mean, this was much bigger during the pandemic, although it's probably still big now, is the algo will also feed you stuff to make you anxious. Like,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
algo encourages doom scrolling.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Doom scrolling was the whole thing. Of just
During COVID, like,
yeah.
nonstop. Like, you were always, and of course, it was the biggest thing on everyone's mind. But
Yeah.
like things have come out that have shown that like if you're in a hole, it wants to keep you in that hole because
Yeah.
you're continuing to engage with the
Yeah.
platform.
I want to say, so you said it wants. I don't think that it's wants. I think it's that it doesn't know how to get you out of the hole. Um
Mm,
because I think at the end of the day, okay, I think at the end of the day, I do believe that when it comes down to it, fundamentally, companies and organizations want to create things that are valuable. Um, and I don't think it's lost on people who operate social media that miserable
yeah.
users are not really a business plan. Right? Like presumably the social media platform that cracks just being sick and dope all the time will become the market leader, right? That just seems like
Yeah.
if I went on flubu.com and every time I went on flubu.com, I was like, fuck yeah, Flubu. This is actually how I kind of feel about TikTok, because TikTok has, I don't know what I did to dodge the shitty parts of TikTok, but TikTok has a high hit rate when it comes to being enjoyable for me. The problem is
Mhm.
it just doesn't have enough stuff to show me, so I get bored really quickly. I can't be on TikTok for more than an hour before I'm like, whatever. But if someone figured out, if flubu.com figured out great experience plus perpetual novelty, they would win, right? They would be, because people would just flood there. They wouldn't want to be on the shitty sites because the contrast would be so stark. But all these recommendation systems are just so bad that they can't. They it's like they optimize for the local maxima of making you miserable, which works within that local bounds, but like the grand scheme of things is obviously not like the summit of engagement. um but but here's a weird thing, maybe a humanist approach or humanist view on things. Could it ever be possible that through a variety of constraints the algos will just never be as good as a person's personal touch? I can't say that with
Yeah.
certainty, but like Spotify, for example, all of their playlists, not all, but like 99% of their playlists are curated by humans. Spotify has an algorithm and stuff, but a lot of the algorithm is just funneling you into stuff that a human has curated. Um, and personally, I don't even like Spotify's algorithm. I don't like the stuff it recommends me. It just doesn't hit. But I think their playlists are very well crafted,
They have good
um,
playlists, yeah.
and I think that's what gives them an edge, uh, among other things, like being first to market and stuff, for what they do. Not literally, but you know what
We're
I
we're
mean.
we're, stu- we're we're stuck on the Spotify thing
Yeah,
for until something I don't
yeah.
I don't know what would come
Have you ever
around.
tried like Apple Music or anything?
I have not.
Yeah,
I haven't had a reason to yet.
me too. I heard the other day there was a tweet, so I shouldn't say I heard. We need to. This is a another tangent here, but all of our vocabulary for referencing media is like super outdated and has never updated. So people will call things articles that are like Twitter threads or like
Yeah.
Reddit posts. I try my best to discern, right? Like if it's an article, and granted, I read a lot of articles. Um, I think I think I deserve credit for calling things articles, but I shouldn't say I heard when I saw a tweet. Just for the sake of accuracy.
If I'm in public conversation, it's always an article. If I don't know the
Yeah,
person, I don't think I'd bring up Reddit. But I
that's fair.
also we I under it's not I don't care as much, I
Yeah,
guess.
but
Or I care
for
more
being able to
differently.
validate like the accuracy of information, I think it matters.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It matters a lot, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, you're an academic. You're used to citing your
I'm
sources
not really
properly.
okay.
I'm a
I'm an
layperson.
ex academic. The articles thing is I read articles because I used to be a real stickler for getting like facts right, and I've loosened a lot on that now. But the consequence of that was that I always forced myself to read the entire article of like pieces and stuff that I saw referenced because I was so paranoid about being wrong. I was like, the only way I could be right is to read the article. And now that's just like my muscle memory is like if I see an article like referenced, I will go and read the article because that's like what feels right to me. Um, but I think it's you don't have to do that. Sometimes it's a waste of time. You got to pick your battles. Um, I definitely have had articles I regretted reading where I was like, this sucked. um, oh yeah, finishing that thought. I saw a tweet. What was the tweet? What was the tweet? What was I just talking about, Richard? Um, uh,
Oh, sorry. As we
algorithm,
discussed, if I, it's sorry, the tab's closed. I don't remember.
Twitter. Dude, the worst part is I can see the person's fucking not animal. I can see the person's fucking anime profile picture in my head, but I can't remember what the body of the tweet was. I can see it clearly. I'm almost positive I found the tweet again. That profile picture, like this blue-haired person, I swear to match the image in my head. What was it about? Ah, I'm blanking so hard. All right, well, doesn't matter enough to bring up again. I probably won't regret it. We'll see. um,
uh,
yeah, where are we with time? Probably near the hour.
yeah,
Probably sounds like it.
we're at the
Well,
hour.
I think that was some good yapping. I think we got some good thoughts out. Any closing ideas, closing things you want to share, Rich?
No, I think we covered it all.
Nice. All right. Well, that was a good special bonus episode for the banking. Shout outs to people who know what we're talking about, the banking, the regular listeners. Um, do I have anything else? No, I don't have anything else. Yep. All right. Thanks for joining us today, listeners. Thanks for joining me today, Richard. I had a good time chatting with you. And as always, goodbye. No.
Goodbye. No.